We drink tequila. We talk.
Welcome to Team Tequila Talks.
Cheers.
Cheers to us. It's just the two of us in the studio today. But we have a really fun guest styling today. Yeah, really fun guest styling today.
Yes.
Everybody, welcome to Team Tequila Talks. Right now, you've got Cassandra Jean Amel and Sherry-Ann Gonzalez, your hosts. We have a guest joining us in a little bit. And so we are going to be just warming ourselves up for that, like foreplay, if you will.
Well, funny you say that because we are in the Aphrodisiac lane of drinks today.
Yeah, so fun fact, we forgot like half the ingredients for this cocktail today, which I feel like we're usually very prepared, and I usually pack my bag the night before because I'm not a morning person, but then we had to hop on a call, and we were talking on the phone, and we were on the call while we were trying to get out the door, and, you know, life happens. And when life gives you lemons, or in this case limes,
You make tequila.
yeah, you make cocktails. So I went to 4 different venues, including 2 mini marts and a liquor store. It's shocked me because I was looking for limes and a shaker, which we forgot, and egg whites, and I was looking for all of those ingredients. You'd think a mini mart, they had deli items, and milk and cheese, but not eggs. So I kept getting referred to a grocery store. And then the liquor store, I always thought that liquor stores had limes. We were able to get some decent lime juice.
Yes.
So, we're working with what we have here.
It's true.
But I feel like I remember liquor stores. I mean, now, gosh, we get everything through like saucy or like specialty liquor stores or Go Puff, or right. I feel like I remember corner liquor stores.
They used to have little baskets of fruit. They used to have like limes, bananas, right? And like apples.
So maybe people are going to traditional liquor stores less, so people don't want perishables in there.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't frequent liquor stores like I used to.
No, me
I get
neither.
it delivered.
100%. Or maybe like Bevmo, because they DoorDash.
It's true,
right?
But I still do DoorDash for them, or I'll just order it and then go pick it up real quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. We ended up making it work. The only thing I didn't find was a shaker, and I went to the 2 mini marts, and I thought, well, maybe if we have a traveler coffee mug, right, something that seals, that we can really give it a decent shake, because we have egg whites in this cocktail, and egg whites, you really have to put some muscle into the shake for about 2 minutes to really froth it up.
We got some good froth here. I used my muscles, and you used your legs. You got your steps in.
Oh, I got my steps in too.
And I got some little like shake weight in with shaking these.
Shake weight.
I did the shake weight egg white shake. I'm sweating, by the way.
I am sweating too. Well, it is also getting very warm, and happy June. Happy Pride too. I feel like I'm wearing like my bright rainbow color.
I know. I didn't get the memo.
Well, you know what? Here we are. The board is rainbow. So.
Yeah, true facts. Well, let's talk about this. So this cocktail is more in the aphrodisiac lane of cocktails. Now, I did a deep dive on aphrodisiacs. Is it a thing? I don't know. Science is saying there is no actual support that when they isolate certain compounds in like chocolates or oysters, it doesn't make the male rats hard or something. So I think...
Is that a technical term?
It's, it was very technical. It was like, but what I got from it was like, oh, nothing happened in the male rat. So
what about the female rat?
Nothing. They think it's more psychological than physiological when you eat like chocolates, oysters, different things. Now, look, if you're drinking tequila, does it make you frisky? Probably. So maybe...
I would think that tequila is more of an aphrodisiac than anything else. So let's first tell the peoples what we are drinking here, because I have thoughts on the aphrodisiac thing, which we'll circle back to.
Yep.
But we basically created a Team Tequila Talks original with some known... I'm not going to say known because that means proven, but from some rumored or I guess... I don't want to say foods that are supposed to be known as aphrodisiacs.
Aphrodisiacs, yes.
Rumored aphrodisiacs, supposed aphrodisiacs. So what's in this cocktail?
We are drinking up like a pineapple mezcal sour type deal. So we have some tequila. We have some fresh pineapple juice, which is in the aphrodisiac lane. We have a tad bit of agave, a little bit of lime juice, that egg white that I shook to death, and a cup of ice and some aromatic bitters.
Yeah.
And it's actually, and I muddled this
and there's
pineapple.
Nutmeg on this too.
And a sprinkle of nutmeg. So the 3 things in here that is making this more elevated into the aphrodisiac lane is the pineapple egg whites and the nutmeg, which they call the sexy spice.
The sexy spice?
It is nicknamed the sexy spice.
I associate nutmeg with the fall and the winter. So to me, I think...
I wouldn't say it's a summer sport.
Cozy flannel.
Yeah. But maybe you feel warm inside because it activates all of the sensualities.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming back to the aphrodisiac thing, and as always, we will post the recipe because aphrodisiac aside, this cocktail is delicious. It's really, really good. I think the nutmeg and the pineapple kind of have this tropical thing, and the mezcal's not too potent. I don't taste a super heavy smoky. I think the pineapple is canceling that out.
And the lime juice. I will say, if you are a baby mezcal drinker, this is the drink for you because it's not smoky at all.
Yeah,
it's actually
I don't really
very
taste
balanced.
Any smoky.
No.
And
we need more.
Yeah, maybe we're using our friends over at Casamigos, their mezcal, and I feel like their mezcal is pretty taste forward. Like, it's pretty potent. Yeah. So it surprises me that it is subtle here. I mean, maybe we're used to having like half an ounce more. We kind of we took a basic sour recipe and modified it and, swapped out some mezcal and stuff. But we also, I don't know, it's got painkiller vibes to me a little bit. Painkiller, the tropical cocktail.
Yeah, it does.
Maybe that's because that can be kind of like punch and has the nutmeg on top, right?
Yeah, but this is like perfect for summer if you wanted a mezcal summer drink because of the pineapple. Yeah. And I only added like a bit of the pineapple. I didn't go crazy.
I would for sure drink this poolside, beachside, etc. This
Absolutely.
is, I think, a really, really nice alternative to a painkiller. I've been to the Caribbean a few times, and I really will maybe only get one of those pina coladas or painkillers because they're so dense and they're so thick and they're so sugary. And when you arrive in the Caribbean, you want your fruity drink with a funky umbrella and garnish.
You need that to start the week.
Yeah, to say I'm here to mentally. I mean, not that you need an alcoholic beverage, but it's nice to
get a mocktail.
You can get a mocktail for sure. Sometimes I've done that too. It's a long travel day, and you don't want to. You're like, I want to rest, and I don't want to start off with a really heavy cocktail. But I think that this is a really nice substitute for a painkiller or pina colada or rum punch, without having all the boxed stuff. Most of the time I've gone to the Caribbean, I've gone to a really cool, highly recommended beach bar or something and said, what's your specialty? And they say painkiller or rum punch or whatever. Yeah. And you watch them make it, and they are pulling stuff out of boxes and cans, which is not our speed because it's syrupy and it has all the sugar and the preservatives and the coloring. We have, if for those of you watching, we have just muddled pineapple here. Fresh muddled pineapple with the muddler. So you get a little bit of the juice, you get the chunks, so you've got your fiber in there too. And pineapple naturally is very sweet, but it's not off the charts in terms of GI, which means it's not going to crazily spike your blood sugar as much as other things could. Certainly not as much as canned or boxed pineapple juice from a bar is going to do. So I think that if you are up for doing, this didn't take us very long. It took us longer to source the ingredients that we forgot than it did to make the cocktail. So we will post this, but I will be making this again this summer for sure in the heat when we are feeling tropical, because it really wasn't that difficult. I think the harder thing would be to cut your pineapple. The little pokey things in the pineapple. It's hard to work around. Yes,
I actually had this pre-diced. It's fresh pineapple, but it was pre-diced and sliced in its own juice, and all I did was muddle it. Who has time to cut a pineapple? I do not. Yeah, and we also have, your standard juicing a lime, or sometimes you can get clean, fresh pressed lime juice. And I am going to encourage everybody out there to try this cocktail because it's very good. We have some things that we try here at Team Tequila Talks and they don't work out. Yeah, but this is actually very summery. It's very on time. Question. We're talking about the aphrodisiacs. Mm-hmm. I personally don't believe... I've eaten a shit ton of oysters before, and it doesn't really do anything for me on the sexual front. That said, I can understand how when you are eating an oyster... You're doing the thing with the lip and the ooh, and it kind of looks like it's phallic. Well, it's right? Supposedly shaped. An oyster is supposedly shaped like a feminine. Oh, a feminine, yeah. Is it the vulva?
Yeah.
And it's so people associate oysters with that. And chocolate is just candy. So I feel like that's going to give you a high. But chocolate actually has something called phenylethylamine, and they call it the love chemical.
Well, I think that when you eat chocolate, you're just happy. You're satisfied.
Yeah.
We eat really clean dark chocolate. We eat really clean dark chocolate, so it's not loaded with a bunch of dairy and sugar and soy and all of that stuff. And I always just sort of feel like my eating is done for the day. I've ended it on a sweet note, and like now I'm ready to go into the evening. But I wouldn't say that it actually fires me up sexually either.
No, it just makes me happy. Wait, I want to go over really quick before we introduce our guest over the 3 ingredients in here that makes it an aphrodisiac and why.
Listening.
So pineapple has bromelain, and it's an enzyme that is found to trigger testosterone production, which can elevate a man's sex drive.
Okay.
Which is, so you can just like microdose your man every day.
I've heard that if men eat pineapple, they're... What's the rating on this episode today?
I heard this
their
too.
Stuff.
Well, maybe Maraya can help us with that.
Sweeter. Yeah, we're gonna have to have Maraya chime in on that. Our guest, Maraya Brown, is going to be joining us in just a second.
So that's what's the pineapple. That's the tea on the pineapple. Then the egg whites are rich in vitamin B6 and B5. And they're a symbol of fertility and rebirth, but eating raw chicken eggs just prior to sex is said to heighten libido and maximize energy levels.
Is it? See, I thought that this was more of an association, like eggs, fertility, subliminal, but I didn't think that the actual egg chemically did anything.
Yes, and nutmeg, last but not least, is known as Viagra for women.
What?
I know.
Why am I not using nutmeg year-round?
It imitates the effect of serotonin. The peculiar spicy taste of nutmeg can cause arousal, and the sharp, seductive aroma of the aphrodisiac spice gives your body a calming, relaxing effect, which I can agree.
See, I thought that was just the fall and like eggnog and hot toddies and pumpkin spice lattes,
which are all warm things with nutmeg.
All of them have nutmeg and they're warm. Yeah, so I'm just kind of like warming up, relaxing your insides. Yeah, we have our opinions on aphrodisiacs. I personally think eating these aphrodisiacs, it's more about the act of feeding each other with oysters and stuff like that, as opposed to the food itself. But who are we? We are not experts. Maraya Brown is an expert.
But Maraya Brown is an expert, and she is joining us all the way from Oregon. I like to say Oregon.
I like Oregon, but I say Oregon, not Oregon.
She is a Yale and functional medicine trained certified nurse midwives, and has a master's in science of nursing and also a master of like all things feminine, divine energy. She is a healer. She is so dynamic. I met her a few months ago, and I was like, I love you.
Yes.
Can I keep you in my pocket?
I wish I was there in person.
Is there anything you want to add to that glowing introduction? Yeah, so do we. But, we, like we were saying earlier, we work with what we have.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm a women's health provider, and I'm a midwife, and I'm a lover of women feeling turned on by their life, their lover, and themselves.
Okay, so what's your take on aphrodisiacs?
I like them. I was just catching the end of what you were saying. The other thing that's cool about pineapple is it's one of the few foods that actually has serotonin in it. So serotonin is that hormone that is going to help with bonding, love, happiness, right? Anybody on an antidepressant, it's generally impacting the serotonin space. And pineapple is one of those. You want it ripe, but it actually is a source of serotonin. And yeah, I definitely think when I've eaten more, or my partner's eaten more, it's changed the smell and taste of our juiciness.
Ooh,
yeah.
So that's true.
That's not a myth.
I don't know. I've never read it in text, but I feel like I've experienced it. We've definitely experimented.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know where I heard that. I think I heard that reading like a Cosmo when I was 17, and it just stuck with me.
Always listen to Cosmo.
Well, I mean, we did back in the day. Do we still listen to Cosmo?
No,
I think we've aged out. Cosmo always had some good sexual tips, and I think they were very repetitive and kind of silly sometimes. But we have an expert here. We have Maraya. So we want to know let's start with what is the biggest thing that people come to you for, or are intrigued by, or are asking your advice on?
Well, so like you said, I'm a Yale-trained certified nurse midwife, and I moved into the online space about 5 years ago. And so then, anyone, no matter where they are geographically, could reach out. And I thought that it would be be the hormone expert, right? So they would come to me with their menstrual irregularity and trying to get pregnant, and PMS and sleep and, you know, all the things that show up with hormones, depression and anxiety. And yes, women come to me for that. But what was striking from the beginning when I first stepped into the online space, my tagline has always been, I help women move from exhausted to energized, balance their hormones, and feel turned on by their life, their lover, and themselves. And what's been so striking to me is how many women come into my space specifically for the conversation around libido and feeling turned on. And at first I had to go, wait a minute. I'm a midwife. I'm a women's health provider. I've been running the women's health in various spaces since 2007. Like my imposter syndrome kind of showed up. But go ahead.
Interesting. You're talking about how to feel turned on and balancing out the hormones. And we recently had an episode where we were talking about sex dust. And that is by a company called Moon Juice. And they are medicinal mushrooms that you can put in your coffee or your smoothie. And it's called sex dust because it actually does help with your hormones. Its primary use is to help with your hormones, which in turn helps with your sexual hormones. But I think they're just, you know, sexual hormones in general. But I also feel like it helps during that time of the month and during your cycle. Same company, Moon Juice, makes an oil, a topical oil. And it is a mushroom-based uni oil, and it's just sort of for vaginal health. Yeah. But I find that it also helps. It does help for the bedroom. It does. Yeah. So what do you use to balance out hormones? Because we're talking about medicinal mushrooms. I know Oregon just made psychoactive mushrooms
Well, it goes
legal,
into effect
correct?
2023 officially.
Okay.
It has
so
been passed, but it goes into
effect
starting 2023. And it's not just legislative passing that it becomes legalized, but also legalization of training practitioners to actually facilitate journeys. And ironically, I'm hosting an in-person women's retreat that's happening. Everyone's flying in June 22nd. And the retreat center that I've reserved, it was just bought out by a company out of Amsterdam. And that's why they bought it, is the intention is starting 2023. It will be a space for people to come and use medicinal mushrooms. So when you mention sex dust, there's a couple things going on. So generally, when I think of mushrooms in that context, my guess is you're talking about adaptogens. Yeah. So adaptogens, yes, absolutely. They come from the plant, botanical, and mushroom kingdom, and they're all phenomenal. They go into the body and help the body better adapt to stress. And so when our stress adaptation is being addressed, then the body, here's the way that I look at it, is the body's either going to be in stress or bless.
Okay. So you're saying
Pretty
no
much.
gray area.
It's either parasympathetic, sympathetic. It's I feel safe, I'm calm, my breath is calm, my digestive system is on, my clarity of thought is on, my hormone production is on, or I'm being chased by a lion, so to speak, and blood flow is being fight or flight, and the blood flow is being used very differently. So as we add in adaptogens, like when you're talking about aphrodisiacs, I think of shatavari is the first one for me. It's around feminine juiciness, and its masculine feminine partner is ashwagandha. So those two, from an adaptogenic perspective, when you're bringing in the sex dust, which I'm not familiar with, I'm guessing it's filled with adaptogens that are coming from mushrooms, and then sometimes used topically, particularly like Uberlube or O-Shot lubrication. They're also bringing in CBD as an adaptogen. And then that has all sorts of kind of medicinal properties to bring the juiciness, increase blood flow to the vaginal area, to the yoni, is what I heard you say. And then many of them will also bring in DHEA, which is a hormone precursor that's going to help stimulate estrogen and testosterone production, particularly for like vaginal dryness. And then there's Reverie, which is hyaluronic acid as a vaginal suppository. I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about. But I think your question was around what do women come to me for? And so the long answer is they come to me because they're feeling tired. They're feeling like something is up with their hormones. They're not getting the answers that they're looking for. I hear a lot of women say, you know, I'm going to providers, they're ordering these labs, they're telling me everything's normal, but I don't feel normal and I don't want to be prescribed another drug. And so it's generally like, how do we get at this from diet, lifestyle, supplementation, mindset, energy work? And then there's this whole conversation around libido. And surprisingly to me, and I've had to just root in and go, oh, this is what it is, and this is the energy that I hold, and women come in, is I'm helping women feel turned on by their life, their lover, and themselves. And that's hormones.
Yeah,
That's our relationship with
love that.
sexuality. That's our relationship with our career and how we're spending our days and all of it.
If you're feeling inspired and artistic, you want to get frisky. And if you are feeling bored and stagnant, then you probably just want a nap.
And I was going to say, like, overall health. And I think when women think, I know we're multitaskers. What is the word you used when you describe what women do?
Diffuse
what's
awareness,
that science
I think.
word?
Maybe is that what you're referring to?
That's exactly describe to
Yeah,
the people.
so this comes
what
from
diffuse
Alison
awareness is.
Armstrong. Alison Armstrong, she's been studying the male and female brain forever. I've interviewed her in my podcast. She's written lots of books. Celebrating Partnership is the first one that I listened to on Audible. But she talks about diffuse awareness in like how the female brain works. And it makes sense from an evolutionary, like hunter-gatherer perspective. We as women... And I'm talking in very binary terms, and hopefully this is, you know, it's just, anyway, I'm going to keep going. They go out to the field, and obviously I'm aware of the storms that are coming. I'm aware of my children and their sounds in the background. I'm aware of the other women out in the field in very different places. I know that those bushes over there, that those berries are poisonous. This bush here, I'm harvesting the berries that are ripe now, but I'm also noticing back behind the bush, those are going to be ripe tomorrow versus a week from now. And I'm aware of the predators that are coming. And so it's diffuse awareness. And the way that shows up today is our brains haven't really changed that much evolutionarily. And so I can walk downstairs and I can notice that the dishes need to be done. There's dust on the mantle. My children, the lunch needs to be packed. Those toys need to be put away. I'm thinking about all the appointments that I need to make. I'm getting ready for the calls that I have today. Oh, yeah, I need to call the grocery store and do my Instacart order, whatever it may be. All of those things are literally yelling at us at equal decibel of sound. And it's very different in what Alison Armstrong, or what I've heard from Alison Armstrong in how the female brain works. And so the way that shows up is I think of it as emotional labor that's playing in the background all the time. And so it's imperative that we find time for just rest and digest, to be still and to allow ourselves to prioritize ourselves and rest, because otherwise the bombardment all day long of all the things that we're thinking about and all of the responsibilities and all the people that we're caring for all day long, we inevitably forget to like breathe. We don't realize that we're butt clenching all day long. We end up constipated and forgetting.
Jaw clenching too.
What was it?
I do that sometimes.
Chocolate?
Yeah.
I do jaw clenching sometimes. I don't really jaw clenching, like, you know, and I don't realize that I'm doing it until I wake up and I'm like,
Sore.
shoot.
You're sore. Your masseters are like
And
sore.
you don't realize that you're clenching and you think, well, but why? I guess this stress has built up in my day. I think it's really interesting that you're bringing up this concept, because I always joke around with my husband that it's a stereotype for a reason, but men can't multitask.
No.
They can't. And I have told him again, time and time again, it's not your fault. You're not wired to multitask. Think back to caveman days. Women had 7 kids, and you got to provide, you got to cook for all of them. You got to keep this one out of the fire. Oh my gosh, there's a lion around that one.
Right.
Where's the 4th one? This one is climbing on a rock, and I need to make sure they don't fall off. Meanwhile, men are wired, go provide food, go kill deer, bring deer back, and then procreate. It's kind of like...
It's just horse blinders. It's just horse blinders. And we just don't, for good reason, we don't have... I don't know if you saw this Instagram video that's gone viral the other day. It's a mom walking with her kids, like I think it was in Oklahoma City, and she sees a mom ahead of her, and her kids aren't in a stroller, and her little one goes to like step off the curb, and she just snatches him up and like pulls him into the side, and then they stop and chat for a while, and then they went like MSN picked them up, and she's like, I just saw, I was watching the little guy, he was towing the line, but she had her baby on like a little skateboard and in the stroller, and I told Rick, look at this, a dad would have been looking up here, not down here. When we see little people, I feel like our minds just go, look at that little person, especially if you already have a little person.
Well, I don't think that it is bad that men and women have these differences. No. I think that we have to acknowledge that there's a real biological, hardwired difference between men and women, 100%. And with men, I know that I couldn't chase an antelope in the wild and catch it and kill it. My husband probably could. And it's not saying that I could. I'd have to outsmart it though. Yeah. Like I couldn't actually go chase it and kill it. Right. And I'm not saying that either are better or worse. I'm just saying that men and women are wired differently in the way that they utilize their brains. And it's not a bad thing. It should be celebrated.
So why do you think the female libido has gotten so complicated? I feel like when you're 18, 20, sex is easy. You're like a bunny rabbit and you're like, oh, me, sex, you, okay. I mean, granted, however you want to take that. But then when you get older, after you have kids, and I'm not saying 50, I'm talking about just multitasking with your career and your kid and a husband, it kind of goes me. And it has spikes, but it's not always at that level that it was.
Is it physiological or is it life getting in the way? Is it psychological?
Well, I love all this conversation. My first thought is maybe we've made it more complicated than it really needs to be. So a woman's erogenous zone is her entire body. And our arousal system is responsive, not spontaneous. And so when we're early in our fertility years and we're wanting to attract a mate and we're, having sex like bunny rabbits, yes, our physiology is different. Our hormones are different. Our ovulation is raging. And as we age and go through different chapters of our life, responsibility shifts. That diffuse awareness and all the different balls that we're juggling shifts, and our desire for depth and to be seen and heard changes. And so when I say a woman's arousal system is responsive rather than spontaneous, what I mean by that is for most men, they could have a long, stressful day at work, and there's a nuclear siren going off, and their beautiful woman walks in front of them naked and they have an erection. Like, boop, spontaneous, ready to go.
Yeah.
The nuclear warhead is headed, but that butt.
I feel like guys all the time just have those things pop up, and it's like, but why? I don't know. They just men just.
Well, it's actually a reflex.
They operate
just like we don't necessarily control that our heart rate goes up when we're watching a scary movie, or if you look in the rearview mirror and you see that you're getting pulled over by a cop, like your palms sweat, your heart races. An erection, for the most part, is an actual kind of physiologic response. It's not something that they necessarily control, particularly when they're feeling. Did you just spill your drink all over yourself?
I did. I got a chunk of pineapple or egg or something, and you know what? It's okay. We're gonna go with it.
Yep.
And so when we feel safe and the nervous system is calm, that how ironic that many men will wake up with a woody. But for a woman, for the most part, our arousal system is responsive. So, for instance, in the morning, we walk downstairs and he's done the dishes, and he walks past us and gives a little caress and a kiss on the back of our neck, and then sends a sweet text message, and then we get flowers at their front door, and then there's, hey babe, I want to take you on a date. Make sure that you're ready at this time, and I'm giving you some extra time to make sure that you've showered and you feel really ready. Like that. Would both of you agree? Like, woo! All right, I'm aroused.
Well, my therapist said foreplay starts at 8 a.m. When your feet hit the floor, that's when foreplay doesn't start the 15 minutes before you have sex. It's literally a long day of like being taken care of, not in a sense of like, let me rub your feet. Just, hey, let me take that little load off you. Right. Oh, I got that. Oh, I'll do this. I'll do that. And then it frees up the kind of, what is it called? like your motherboard. It frees up your circuits to kind of think of, nourishment, you know, love, care, where you're not really
safe space, security.
Yeah, it's like your bandwidth. It increases your bandwidth for the nurturing side of yourself. Yeah.
We want to feel seen. We want to feel heard. That's why women in my space, I have them do their love language quiz. We look at our erotic blueprint, not because it's dogma, but because we get to be in that space of self-exploration. What does turn me on, right? How do I express love and really feel loved, right? And the more when we're in partnership where we can share that and understand if a woman's arousal system is responsive, meaning all day long, and our erogenous zone is our entire body, turn on becomes more complex because as we grow older, we have more responsibilities and there's more kind of yelling at us in that diffuse awareness conversation. So hence, it becomes that much more important to, I always say no permission needed. Rest is required, not earned. We get to prioritize ourselves. We get to fill up our own cup. We get to add those amazing adaptogens in, feed our body, remind ourselves to eat and drink and create moments of pleasure. Acknowledging, play,
and live life, right?
Something that smells good and tastes good and looks good. Yeah,
so I have a question for you. I am a big fan of energy work and setting intentions, and this, you know, a lot of people confuse that with toxic positivity if they don't know a lot about how to utilize energy and intention. It's not just about everything's going to be okay. I'm sure of it. Everything's going to work out. It's not about that. It's about going, okay, well, these things could go wrong, but these things could go right. And I'm going to intentionally try to take this route instead of this route. And no matter what the circumstances, I'm going to make lemons out of lemonade or glass half full or whatever cliche you want to say. And I'm going to make the best of it. So that to me is optimism. That is positivity. Would you say that combination of what Sherry's saying, foreplay starts at 8 a.m., but would you say setting an intention at some point during the day for where you want to end up in the evening is a useful tool?
And there's so much about what you're saying that I love. There's this like law of attraction, so to speak, affirmations, intentions, and some people say, oh, but it's just all positive. Like, are we neglecting to actually address the negative emotions that are there, right? So I think first inside, then outside. So where it all begins is inside, meaning in our mindset. So we get to actually start looking at the thoughts and feelings that are firing out of us and reassess. We're all just telling ourselves stories all day long. So can we shift the story? Can we shift the expectation? Can we start creating intentions, affirmations, and I also think that there's time and space for tapping, emotional freedom technique, to acknowledge the polarity and tap it out to kind of depolarize the intense emotions. Because otherwise we just stuff it down all day and I think it has to come out. Otherwise it's going to be a volcano.
It comes out in those little snappy moments.
Or big snappy moments. The viper's out.
Yes.
And so yes, in regard to setting a time, I think that there's a lot of value if you're in partnership or in a sexual relationship to be able to have agreements where we go, all right, what are my pumpkin hours? What are my desserts? And what are some agreements? And this, once again, comes from Alison Armstrong, too. So pumpkin hours are, what are those timer moments when, like, you think about Cinderella and the clock strikes midnight and that turns back to a pumpkin? Like, what are those moments for you that it's kind of like if your partner tries to instigate lovemaking, you feel kind of resentful. Like, this is a pumpkin hour for me. For me, between...
You know I have to be up in 5 hours or something.
Yeah, beyond 1 a.m., I'm resentful because I know myself. I'm in that perimenopause chapter where if I wake up, I get the adrenal cortisol surge and it takes me a really long time to go back to sleep, even after multiple orgasms. It's still, I feel resentful. Or
multiple.
Ma'am. Hold on. Let's talk more about that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wait. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it was a perfect segue. I told Cassandra that you said there's 3 or 4 different types of orgasms.
I've never heard this. I grew up grew up. I mean, came of age, I
What
guess.
are you, 100?
I just, talking about reading those stupid Cosmos back in the day. I thought that there were only two kinds of orgasms, internal and external, for females, and just one for men. You kind of know when it happens.
I haven't
It's pretty
experienced
obvious.
all the different types of orgasms, but I've chatted with people who have, and part of my team, I have a sex therapist and a sexologist that's part of my internal space that women come in, and so I'm privy to some really fun conversations. So of course, clitoral orgasms, that's the most common. 60% of women, that's how they orgasm. And it's so funny, a lot of women will go, I can't orgasm unless there's stimulation. I mean, the majority is clitoral. And oh, by the way, the clitoris is not just that little pea-sized thing underneath the hood. It's actually a very intricate, large organ that goes down our labia minora and has legs and goes into that anterior wall of the vulva. So the clitoris is much larger than what we all give it credit. So there's clitoral orgasms, there's vaginal orgasms, there's anal orgasms, there's cervical orgasms, there's ejaculatory orgasms, yes, for women. There's all different kinds.
For women who squirt, you're talking about the
Correct.
squirters?
I've heard that's just pee. Is that wrong?
No.
Not pee. Not
Is
pee.
it pee? No.
Really? I read an article that said we've debunked this. It is like 80% pee.
Everything. So there's a book called Female Ejaculation, and what they've actually
Just somebody wrote a book.
yes,
on it.
and they've found actual prosthetic enzymes in the female ejaculate fluid. The experts that I listen to and chime into say no, it absolutely is a real thing, and it's not a woman urinating. It's actually part of the orgasmic experience. OMG Yes is another really fun resource. I don't know if are either of you familiar with that?
I am, because you talked about it last time I saw you.
OMG Yes is fun.
Is it an
It's
app?
an app, and it's a membership. They interviewed like 250,000 women around the world, and there's seasons, and it's compiled. It's spectacular just to see the variety of ways that women experience pleasure and the variety of ways that women reach orgasm. I mean, listen, I've been in vaginas for 22 years as a midwife and a women's health provider. And I've seen a lot of variety, right? Catching babies and doing pap smears and all the stuff. I had no idea how much variety there is in how women reach pleasure. So omgyes.com.
We did like a women's circle event that Maraya hosted, and I think it was probably like 20 of us, I want to say, around in a circle, and everyone was pretty open. And I was just sitting there like, wait, what? You can do, and how women experience pleasure. And then we got into this whole like mental, mind, body, soul type of a pleasuring moment when you reach that euphoric kind of orgasm.
Well, I will say that one thing that I have spoken about to my husband that he is very jealous of is like, I'll have dream orgasms.
Yes. Men have it too.
Fully
Men
in
have
my
it too.
sleep.
Men have
and
it too.
Steven's like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I have dreams and then it happens. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I'm asleep.
Right.
I'm not actively trying to do this. It just kind of happens. I don't know.
Is it the mind-body connection I feel that women have?
It has to be because there's no physical stimulation when you're asleep.
No, first
right?
inside, then outside, meaning first in the mind. Once again, fight, flight, or freeze, you can have a bad dream. You can watch a scary movie. You could come around the corner and there's someone and you're being held at gunshot, right? In all those scenarios, whether they're real or being imagined, the body physiologically responds the same way. Right? You wake up and palms are sweating, heart is racing, blood flow goes to the organs to fight hard, run fast, or freeze. And so, am I going to share? I'm going to share. So my husband and I both can have multiples, and he's able to have multiples without ejaculation. And sometimes he can have an orgasm without touch. So it's literally just being expressed in his mental arousal. And when you, the erotic blueprint is really fun because there are different kind of types of erotic desires, erotic types. And, once again, I'm not just a disc profile or ENFP or whatever it may be, but Goop, Sex, and Love ended up doing that Netflix series. And Jaya Love, who's the one that developed erotic blueprints, She does one of the first episodes. It's really fascinating. And so I think some of us might be more sensual, more erotic, more kinky. And so depending on what floats our boat, what turns us on can really vary. And absolutely.
And right. And I feel like it changes from when you're younger. And I think a lot of us don't want to acknowledge that what we liked 10 years ago, we might not like now out of like embarrassment for our husbands or our partners. But I find it's actually better when you're like, I'm good on that. That was a time. But now can we experiment with this, where I feel like sometimes the male ego is something we protect. I think women, we definitely nurture our men or spouses or boyfriend male ego. And I think sometimes it's actually the opposite. Because I think a man wants to get in there and do a good job. Like he wants the thumbs up. And I think if you can be like, hey, I used to like that. I don't like that anymore. Well, tell me what you like. Yeah. It's like a freaking restaurant. I'll try it this way. Absolutely. And I find that some women are like, I would never tell my husband that because that would break his heart. And I'm like, why wouldn't you? And I think I'm just a forward person that I think I am more sensual. More of the 8 a.m. foreplay starts at 8 a.m. for me. It's not like a right before bed, let's get this done sometimes. But as I've gotten older, that's not my go-to thing anymore.
I was going to say, I think that the more open you are with your partner, the more connected to them you feel, which in turn leads you to have a more active, prosperous, and engaged sexual life. Because you always hear about back in the day, you know, people hooking up with guys hooking up with their secretaries or whatever. And it's like, well, you know, why'd you do that? And people would say, because I can get from this person what I can't get from this person. It's like, well, you probably could if you just asked or talked about it.
Right. It's like the 80-20 rule. I don't know if this is real. Maybe you've heard about this, where everyone's spouse or partner only gives them 80% of what they need, and then the other 20% you go find in something else, which is usually the 20% is usually passion, aggressiveness. It's usually the hot and steamy stuff that you no longer get from your partner, and so that's why they say the 80-20 rule. But I think the 20 for me is always like, hey, this is what I like. And, you know, obviously, you know, men are easily more stimulated than women, so it's like for men, I feel like it doesn't really change as much as it does for women. But I know me more mentally, I need a different type. That's why it's interesting you talked about the types. If you're more sensual, like the erotica stuff and all that stuff, some people really get into that. And look, the multiple orgasm without ejaculation is, you know, mental. I feel like that's you're going places that maybe the aliens helped us go through in the Egyptian days.
Okay.
But I'm saying it's maybe like aliens, higher functioning.
We're back on the aliens.
Well, I feel like it's the higher functioning mind, you know.
There's so much that I have to say. As we shift and change and age and hormones change and anatomy changes after childbirth specifically and into perimenopause and menopause, and as we mature and start speaking our voice and having different desires and more on our plate, the thing that I ask women, is it that you don't desire sex, or is it that you don't desire the sex that's being offered to you? And men absolutely, for the most part, really do want to please us. And so the more that we can be specific with what it is that turns us on and doesn't, the vagina is a Rubik's Cube. And not only is it a Rubik's Cube, it's changing, right? So moving target right now, after this last baby I gave birth to, I like more stimulation from the right side of my clitoris better than the left. Like, I have to figure that out for myself and then be able to share that with my partner. And in this 80-20 rule, I think that many of us that are in heterosexual relationships, we emasculate our men, because we're asking them to show up as all things. We want to be able to talk to them like they're our girlfriend, and we just want them to hear us. We want them to show up and help with the household, but then also show up as masculine, like go out and hunt and bring home the bacon and show up and please me. And, you know, a part of me feels like societally we're making it more complicated. And how can we shift as women, as powerful women, and allow ourselves to be in a receiving space, to relinquish control, to allow them the space to offer up to us, and allow them space to be in their strong masculine? I mean, listen, I brought my husband home as the CFO this last summer, so I'm the breadwinner now. You betcha there's all sorts of complex scenarios in our relationship that we get to work through. And how do I still be in my feminine?
Right. You've really got to find a way to embrace the divine feminine, or even the worldly feminine, the physical feminine. And you can still be the breadwinner, but it's really, I guess, how do you find a way to make yourself feel feminine or to embody the feminine, even if that's checking the breadwinner at the door or checking the mom hat at the door, because the shift from maternal to sexual, I mean, if that's not a switch, that's a tough one when you're with kids all day. And then the kids go to bed and it's like you're just supposed to be boom into sexy mode. And that's difficult. It's hard to do a 180 and go from nurturing to sexual.
1,000%. And I think one huge thing with the, female earner dynamic is some women like develop an invisible male penis when they make more money. They call it women with the penis syndrome because they're so powerful and they're at these board meetings and they have this company and other men listen to them, that then some men say those women become extremely unattractive to me. They could be beautiful. The moment they open their mouth, dude's like, nope, penis is down.
Energy thing.
And those women are like, well, I'm in board meetings and like, I need a boss. I need a guy that's going to harness my energy. And I'm like, no man wants to be with a man if he doesn't want to be with a man.
I mean, some men might.
No, some men might.
Their own, and everybody's got their person.
Right.
But I can see as a generalization what you're saying in terms of this being, for most men, it might make them feel a certain way.
You're not able, like I know if my husband's around a woman with that kind of big dick energy, he's always like.
Big clit energy?
Yeah, but he calls it big dick energy because he's like, this woman is so aggressive. Like we'll just be like here having drinks without the mic and the thing, and she's just boom, boom, attack mode. I want my opinion heard. I want to know, everyone know that I'm super smart and I have my own company. I started from scratch. And Rick's like, she's beautiful, but like she can't, she's single for a reason. And I'm always like, because women have when you fight so much, you have a hard time to say, let me take a step back, woosah, meditate, do some affirmations. It's hard.
Well, that's more of, there's the yin and yang energy and masculine and feminine. And that's really about finding the balance, because you are allowed to embody both, but it's about having them both in your chamber and utilizing one or the other given the circumstance. We have to wrap it up pretty soon.
I know, I'm sad.
I know. I feel like that went by so fast today. But Maraya, what would be we talked about what people come to you for advice on, but what would you say is your best kept secret or your best kept piece of advice that you would like to share with people that they can really put in their back pocket moving forward?
I think the best kept secret is that you're enough, that you're worthy of greatness, you're worthy of splendor, you're worthy of feeling belonging, you're worthy of feeling loved and being able to safely express your love without worrying if there will be strings attached or that vulnerability will hurt down the road. But we all, as women, are worthy of being powerful and exceptional and change makers in the world and serving greatly, and also being vulnerable and allowing ourselves to drop into feeling safe, being in a flow space. And that we're absolutely, it's our God-given right, it's our birthright to be worthy of feeling spectacular, feeling vibrant, feeling turned on, waking up to your day, feeling really excited about the day that you're going to live. And if that's not your reality, well, what are you doing about it?
Well, and I think if you're saying if it's not your reality, for a lot of people, they might hear that and go, but how do I get there? I feel like I'm so far away from that. And I know that when I have this ideological place that I'd like to be, it's not about all of a sudden embracing that at all times, but it's finding space in your day or even your week and saying, well, I know that this aspect makes me feel really loved and worthy and safe. So I'm going to take this part of my day or this part of my week, and I'm going to find my peace within that space and let it grow from there. It's more about planting a seed as opposed to just waking up one day and having this transformation happen where all of a sudden you feel like a rock star. It's about finding where it exists in your life today, right now, even if it doesn't feel like it is prevalent, but you got to find where it is, however small it may be, and expand upon that.
Absolutely. And I think often it starts with gratitude. You know, I can think of at a time in my life where I was at a really low place. I felt trapped in my life, trapped in my body, trapped in my marriage. And someone said, well, my dad, he's like, you just need to feel happy. And I wanted to punch him in the face. It's like, that's asking a 5'2" woman to just like jump across a river. And I went, it's too much for me. But what I realize is if I'm offered stepping stones to just do one step at a time, inevitably I'll make it to the other side. And so what that looks like is if feeling ecstatic is too much of a stretch for you, can you start with where do I feel satisfied? I feel grateful when I get in the shower and I have hot running water and I'm going to feel the running water on my body. I can look out the window and see beautiful blue skies or watch the way the wind is dancing on those leaves and it's beautiful. I can take a moment and put aromatherapy on my wrists and take a nice deep breath in and allow myself to really feel that deeply, right? Can we take moments of I'm taking this drink of water and it feels so good coming down my throat. And so what happens, like I love the Abraham Hicks scale of emotions. If we're deep in jealousy or anger,
me too.
Can we move up to pessimism? And if you're in frustration,
right. As opposed to jumping to joy. Right, because it's on the opposite end of the spectrum. And they've now proven that those emotions have real scientific frequencies. So you're really asking somebody to jump from a volume that's at a 1 to a 10. And
which is
saying,
not...
Don't jump from a 1 to a 10. Jump from a 1 to a 2 or a 3. And then from there, take a breath and jump from a 3 to a 4.
Yeah.
And work your way up the scale. It's the stepping stones.
Time. Like, I think we're so accustomed to, I get my prescription... I take my Ambien and I'm sedated within a half an hour. I take my pain medication and the pain's away within a half an hour versus that's really just Band-Aid care in my perspective. It's not, first of all, sedation's not sleep. And second, that ibuprofen that's taking away the menstrual pain is actually causing leaky gut and gut stuff. But can we allow for change to happen gradually, not by yourself? I think we do ourselves a disservice to go, I'm just going to do this by myself. We need community, especially women. We get to ask for help. We get to receive.
Yes.
And we get to allow ourselves baby steps over time, consistent, daily, over 2, 3, 4, 5 months. And then you look back and you're like, holy macaroni, look at the progress that's been made. I used to live in revenge and blame and anger most of my days. And now I'm in optimism and I'm feeling hopeful. But I didn't jump across the river all at once. I allowed the stepping stones to be there for me one step at a time.
Which I love. So consistency, gratitude, grace, being kind to yourself, and just stop and smell the roses.
And find your stepping stones that work for you, which might look different for someone else. So there's your homework, listeners. And Maraya Brown, thank you for joining us.
We're going to link her website is marayabrown.com, but we're going to have all of her handles. Her retreat is coming up June 22nd to June 26th. I don't know if there's any spots available, but we'll also put that on there.
There will probably be more. Yeah.
Okay, so we will definitely link you with the genius that is. I mean, honestly, this is just a snippet, tip of the iceberg type of deal with her. I feel
like we could have gone for so much longer.
I know, but we're just teasing everyone here.
I know. Well, we'll have to have you back. Thank you for joining us. Cheers, guys. Team Tequila Talks. You know what to do.